Hello, my name is Anjali Bhimani, and I would put mango and red pepper in my immigrant jam because it's a little bit sweet and it's a little bit spicy, just like me.
Holy moly! Welcome to another beautiful day at Immigrant Jam Headquarters. I'm your host, Lucie Pole. We are back with another amazing episode. I'm so excited about this one. Today on the podcast, we have the amazing actress, actor, voice actor, writer of a new book that we're going to talk about. Woman About Town, amazing singer. I mean, there's nothing that this woman can't do. It's my good friend, my Overwatch co-star, the amazing Anjali Bhimani.
Hello.
Welcome.
I love that introduction. I want that introduction like always. Would you do that for me?
I will travel with you for a very small fee.
Although there are plenty of things I can't do. Can't play basketball because I'm really not like...
You can.
I mean, I
could.
I probably couldn't.
You could.
Someday I could.
We are also sisters in height.
We are,
more or less.
Indeed.
I
think you're like
just like
2 inches taller than me.
2 inches? You think?
5'2"?
I'm 5'1.5".
Okay, you're
which matters.
You're 1.5 inches taller than me.
I'm 1.5 inches taller than you. I wanted to try out for the basketball team in high school.
Did you?
Everyone laughed at me.
I actually played freshman year. I played on the girls' volleyball team, and my main claim to fame was that I could walk under the net without ducking. So that was a skill I was very proud of. I also dove for every ball because I was like, if I look like I'm making the most effort, it won't matter that I suck.
Yep.
So it didn't matter what it was. It could be all the way on the other side of the volleyball court. I'd be diving for it over here, and people would be like, well, I'm sorry, Anj, you don't need to be on the ground. I'm like, but I'm so close to the ground. Why would I not dive for it? Exactly.
Flips.
That was the beginning of my stunt career right there.
And then you just started singing Broadway tunes and distracting the other team, and that's why you guys won.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's
every single.
But that would have been
game.
That would have been smart.
That would have been smart.
See now.
Yeah,
I needed you.
That's why when I played chess for a little while, but I wasn't very good. But I was really good at the psychological warfare.
Oh, I bet you were.
Yeah, I would fuck people up.
I can.
And then
I
they'd
can
just be
see
like,
that.
I don't know.
Because just you, when you actually have a serious face, which is rare with us, because we're usually having fun together. But when you have like that serious blank look on your face, where you really can't tell what you're thinking, it's terrifying.
Nice.
Like her poker face. Not that we play poker, but I would call it her poker face. Is like I don't want. You don't want to fuck with this gal.
Oh, great.
I like it. It's also the New York in me.
But do you also have body dysmorphia in the sense that you think you're like 7 foot tall and like the Hulk? Because I have that.
I don't have that. I do think I'm 900 pounds. I do have that kind of body dysmorphia. No, I do. It's actually something that I'm very comfortable sharing with people because I think a lot of. I know this is a more comic podcast, but I think a lot of people suffer from this and don't quite recognize that they do.
Yeah.
Until you really think about every single other person I know, whether they're like friends or not, doesn't. Like the way that they see me is different than I see me, and it's been a battle for most of my life. Like ever since I was a teenager, to be like, I don't know that you're as big as you think you are. Which is one of the reasons why the book is titled what it is. It's not like I don't really talk about that in the book, but it's the idea that we are in these little machines, these little M&Ms that we are, and it doesn't really matter what it looks like on the outside because we're on the inside. We all want to live these big, huge, amazing lives, but life can make us feel really small or alone or scared or all of those things. And my mission with this book, with everything I do, is to let people know they're not alone. I don't care if I don't understand what you're going through or I haven't experienced it, you're not alone. And there's always someone around to either make you laugh, be a shoulder to cry on, help you with a flashlight out of a cave, whatever it is, there is someone there.
Wait, did you say help you with a flashlight out of a cave?
Yeah, if you're mentally speaking. Mentally speaking.
I'm
I
like,
mean, you
wait,
could do that
who
too.
is your target demographic here?
All of a sudden, I'm talking to the spelunkers of the world.
Thai soccer playing boys that I write for.
It's the climbers in Switzerland.
Speaking of the book, this is your book. I can't believe it. This is so fucking cool. It's called I Am Fun Size, and so are you.
You are.
And so are you.
And the subtitle is Thoughts from a Tiny Human on Living a Giant Life.
Wow, I love that. Yeah. Yes, that is universal. You don't have to be small to feel small. I want for those the 5 people left on this earth of ours that don't know you. Okay.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit? You grew up in Ohio. Your parents.
No, actually, I was born in Ohio, but I grew up in Orange County.
Oh, right. I always think you grew up in Ohio.
No, but which makes sense.
You
because
were born in Ohio.
I was born in Ohio. I was born in Cleveland. I'm a Cleveland Indian, like a real one. And then we moved right before I turned 4. We moved to Orange County, California.
And your parents came. I read about your parents last night in the 60s from India.
They did. They did. And they are... parents are so extraordinary in so many ways. Like, I never know where to begin. First of all, this will give you an idea of the mix that was my parents. They're both surgeons. Surprise, surprise, we're Indian. We had a 50-50 chance there. But they met doing a play in medical school.
No way. What was the play?
In their copious free time as medical students. So my dad, I don't remember that. I don't know the name of the play, but my dad and his best friend, my dad was the leading man in this intercollegiate drama troupe, as they called it, and his best friend was the director. And they were looking for someone to play opposite my dad. And he kept vetoing all the girls that came by, and finally, Kanti uncle, his friend, was like, dude, come, get it together. And my dad said, okay, look, the next girl that walks down those stairs who speaks Gujarati, that's the one, I promise. And down came my mom. And there she was. And he was like, hey, I'm Bhimani. And you're like, a big man on campus, I'm going to ask you to do my play with me. And she was like, who the hell are you? Like, maybe I'll do it. I got to ask my mom first. And she was like the first person, allegedly, she's like the first person that ever spoke to him that way. And like when you can't have it, you want it. So my dad pursued her, and then he caught her.
So they were Gujarati?
Gujarati, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But not Muslim, right?
Not Muslim. We were Hindus. Yeah. And so they both grew up in Mumbai and then moved here. There was like I didn't really know this until much later in my adult years, but my dad had wanted to move to England and my mom had wanted to move to America.
Why?
And
why
Mom
did she want
wins.
to move here?
Mom always wins. I don't really know the reasons behind it. In my head, it's like colonials who took over our country
Right.
or the American dream. Like, that's kind of the visual that I see at the time, even though, 50-50 on whether America is colonialism too.
Or more like
90-10. I mean, we're going to put that one over there. I think that's why. And she also had family out here. My uncles, her 2 brothers had gone to Berkeley and they had family out here. So, it made sense. And they first moved to Cleveland. And then my mom was like, I am not shoveling snow to deliver babies at 3 o'clock in the morning. We have to leave this place after having me and my brother. Like, she stuck it out for a while. She paid her dues like I did in Chicago, where you're like, okay, I know I can do this. I don't have to. I'm perfectly capable of kicking my way out of a frozen car door. I don't have to do it on a regular basis. So yeah, we moved to Orange County, and then I fled because I did. And I fled Orange County and went to Chicago and went to school there at Northwestern. Which was kind of like the first time I realized that blonde hair was a recessive gene. Like, I saw proof that blonde hair was a recessive gene. It was very exciting. And went to school there for theater. And because I'm such a practical person, my minor was musical theater. Very practical choice. And although I'm again of the opinion, like, if you have a fallback, you'll fall back. So that was for me, at least. I felt that way. But I stayed in Chicago for a while doing theater, and then a beautiful show that I loved so much called Metamorphoses moved to Second Stage in 2001, and then we moved to Broadway in 2002. And so I stayed put in New York and did like whatever they'd pay me to do that was legal. I did opera, I dance, whatever I could get my hands on. A lot of theater. Started doing television then.
I love that, like, opera is just like something that, like, yeah, and then to make ends meet, I did opera.
No, but let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase it that way. Yeah, that's very funny that it did sound a little bit like that, didn't it? What I meant was I love storytelling so much. So whatever form I was offered, because I think when we were...
How do you get offered opera randomly?
Well, I mean, auditioning.
Right.
But whatever, I feel like, at least when I was a kid back in 1902, I feel like for the longest time, actors were told you need to stay in your lane to be a true artist in whatever medium you're doing. If you are a theater artist, you only do theater. If you are a TV, you only do TV, and never the twain shall meet. And I was like, I don't know about you guys, but I like doing this however I can, so I'm going to do that. Also, if left to my own devices with an empty brain, I will fill it with bad things, so let me work as much as physically possible. Like, my brain can be used for the powers of good or the powers of evil. Let's use it for good and put it in a show. So any audition that came up, if it was an industrial, if it was that opera, like I said, if it was anything that I could do, and, you know, sometimes I was terrible at the auditions, and sometimes I landed the part. And so I started doing, you know, a little bit of everything. When I started doing TV, then I started going back and forth between LA and New York. And then I finally stayed put in Los Angeles in 2010 and started, you know, again, mostly TV out there, but some theater. Which was great also because I was back with my parents nearby because they were only an hour and a half away. And my dad got sick in like 2016. And so being there with them and my grandmother as well was just sort of crazy perfect, like exactly what I needed at this time in my life. So it's just a really long story. And then around 2015, did we audition for Overwatch?
For me, it was a little later than you guys. I joined in 2016.
Okay, I feel like I was 2015. Yeah. So, and that was my second voiceover job.
Yeah,
which is crazy pants.
Yeah.
I do think the theater background, like, people are like, can't believe that was you're lucked into that. I'm like, yes, I lucked into it, but it's not like I didn't work on my craft before. Yeah, like, I knew how to act. So, and I knew how to use my voice to do crazy things. So yeah, then voiceover started, and then gaming stuff followed with that, the RPG playing and all of that. So, like I said, anything they'll pay me.
Yeah, I didn't mention that.
Yeah, there's
Critical Role empire
and Geek and Sundry before it was gone, and D&D Beyond, because there's so many.
Wait, but some people might not know what that is.
So RPGs, TTRPGs specifically, are tabletop role-playing games, which encompasses, the most famous one is Dungeons and Dragons, but it encompasses an entire genre of tabletop games, which are basically long-form improv. And there are a variety for dragons, and you have to be a dungeon or a dragon. No, but there are a variety of different gameplay systems varying from complex to easy. So it might be something where you have one die and you roll it and then you have decisions to make, or it could be more complex like Dungeons & Dragons where you have to read a ton of books and like learn how to play the game. You don't actually have to read all the books to play Dungeons & Dragons.
So just to backtrack real quick, you were saying you went to Chicago and you were like, where I realized blonde hair was actually a recessive gene. Yeah. So did you grow up in a place that wasn't very diverse?
Yeah, Orange County is, I mean, I had a great childhood, and I sort of didn't see the things that everybody else did, whether it was denial or whether it was genuinely like, I feel like the kids in my school, I didn't experience any kind of racial prejudice until I was probably 17 or 18. That was the first instance ever, minus one tiny instance where someone made fun of my mom and I yelled at them. But like
made fun of her accent.
This is such an awful this is such an awful thing to share because I'm slightly embarrassed of my response as well. But it was in elementary school, and in Southern California at the time, a lot of people would call Mexican people beaners as a negative way to call them. And so I was walking to the cars. My mom picked me up. I think it was like third grade. Walking to the cars, my mom picked me up, and someone was like, "Hey, that's your beaner mom." And I turned around, and because my way of fighting back is you're not right, you're being inaccurate, I turned around and I was like, she's not a beaner, she's Indian. Get it right. And like that was because I didn't think I didn't my bigger indignance was people being wrong about who people are than people making fun of it. And looking back, that's actually probably a great way to deal with it because it's the ignorance that made me sad and made me frustrated, not the anger that came behind it or the superiority that came behind it. It's just if you knew, you wouldn't do this. So, but besides that, my whole upbringing, I feel like, I mean, I was the only Indian gal, certainly until like well into high school in my school system.
Wow.
Or in my school, like the schools that I went to. And I remember when one other Indian gal came to our school, like my junior year. And I kind of feel like people were like, okay. Like, we don't, like, it was just not a thing. And because, you know, I think first generation immigrants, like my parents who were first generation coming over, want their kids to, you know, you want your kids to fit in. You want your kids to have a social life and with the other kids there. So I think it goes one of two ways. Either people like really impose their culture on their kids to try to hold on to it, to hold on a sense of belonging, or they're like, go ahead, assimilate in any way you can, knock yourself out. So I grew up not speaking Gujarati, not speaking Hindi, but I learned Spanish and French. And I was just kind of like, I joke, but it's kind of true. Like, I don't think I even realized, like I didn't realize I was Indian. I knew I was Indian, but I felt very, like I'm an Oreo.
So
or like
it wasn't
Choreo, like a
being
chai
an immigrant. A Choreo.
Chai Oreo.
So being an immigrant or your parents being immigrants wasn't like a thing at home. It
didn't feel like that because my parents were so freaking smart and so cool and so like, I mean, they had accents and we ate Indian food some of the time, but it was never you don't fit in because it was more like this is your history, not this is a culture that is different from everybody else and weird. And so like I said, I don't think I realized how different it was. And I certainly didn't realize how special it was until I was much older. It was just like a fantastic upbringing. And they were so kind of generous with their culture and their religion and everything, basically saying, this is what we've got, choose what you want. I mean, we'd have family like gatherings and we'd go to Garbaras folk dance parties and stuff like that. And that was definitely a part of it. But it was very much like you make your decisions. You decide. Now, the way my mom practiced, particularly my mom practiced Hinduism was so beautiful to me that I very much took to it spiritually. Because it wasn't so much about the actual specifics of doing the artis or praying or whatever, but prayers to her were calling to that part of you that the God you're praying to lives in. So the goddess Saraswati, who's the goddess of knowledge and the arts, that's the part of you that is learned and the part of you that is creative.
So meaning like God is in you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But the cool thing, and one of the things that I love about polytheistic religions, and one of the reasons I loved mythology growing up, and even the modern day mythology of superheroes, it's kind of the same thing to me, that there is no one, that in that religion, there's no one right part of you. You are complex. And you have all of these parts of you that live in you. And all of these parts of you are you know, beyond are so powerful and can be great or can be really destructive. And so I loved that so much. And I mean, I read the Bhagavad Gita when I was in like 6th grade because, you know, that's good reading material for a 13-year-old. Like I read that and the autobiography of Mahatma Gandhi, which is like 9,000 pages long, in 6th grade. And it was more, again, just to understand than to necessarily practice things. And I think it's because my parents treated us so much like grown-ups in terms of our understanding of things. If we didn't know, Dad was incredible at this. We had this wall of books in our family room because knowledge was a huge part of both our culture but also our family. Big readers, big studiers, big everything. And anytime you would ask a question and Dad didn't know the answer, he'd be like, I don't know, let's find out. And so we'd go to the books and we'd go look together. And to have an adult give you permission to not know and permission to find out,
Yeah.
There's this empowerment you have about
true.
like, oh, cool. It doesn't suck to not know the answer because school will make you feel like that. You'll get shamed by plenty of teachers if you don't know the answer.
Right.
But to have that freedom to not know and the excitement to learn was very, very, very big. And I'm so glad that the both of them really taught us to do that.
That's so funny because that's like the opposite of my dad, who pretended he knew all answers and would make shit up. And like later in life, I realized like, that's not true. Like, he made that up. He'd be like, yeah, of course. Yeah. I'd be like, Dad, have you read this book? Yeah. Of course I've read that book. Yeah. It's not good. That's not good. Like, and then later I like realized like, oh my God, he just makes shit up. Like, he can't admit that he doesn't know something,
That's hilarious. My dad definitely had the, like, let me teach you about the thing vibe. Like, we had a joke running in the family for many, many years that, like, when I was a kid, I asked him, hey, Dad, how does a car work? Well, a car has 4 wheels, and then you turn on the engine, and the car starts to go. So then cut to, like, I'm 16. I'm like, Dad, I think there's something wrong with the carburetor. Well, a car has 4 wheels. And when you turn on the fact that he would start from the very beginning, no matter what the complexity was, you're like, no, jump forward. I've learned since then. Jump forward, Dad. Come on. So he definitely was Mr. Like, let me share this wisdom with you when he had it.
Did you grow up with a sense of like, because your parents, were immigrants and came to this country and made it, that you like owed them, or that did you have, because a lot of immigrants, have that experience, but it sounds like you didn't have, even though you grew up with the culture and an awareness that you had parents from somewhere else. It sounds like you grew up in a very peaceful way. How do you do that?
No, I had the luxury, because of what they did and because of how hard they worked. I had the luxury of seeing them living a life that was already comfortable and was already what they wanted. So I had the luxury of like, oh, cool, you guys are okay. I don't have to prove anything or do anything. Or like, I have to prove that I'm successful, but I don't have to do it for you.
And they were supportive when you said you wanted
supportive.
To be in
I mean, like, here's the thing.
actual-
Like, first they were like, well, you wanted to be a fireman when you were a kid, so sure. And then the next reaction was, well, maybe you should have like, why don't you go to school for? And at the time I was like into architecture. Why don't you go to school for architecture and then act on the side? And I was like, that's not going to happen. And I understand why, because there are a lot of the arts are supported so much in Indian culture, but for the longest time not as a job, not as a profession,
a hobby.
But so many, but every person I knew was like gonna be a doctor, but played piano like a virtuoso. Like, so being an artist on the side made sense to them. But then when I finally proved, like, look, guys, I'm serious about this, they said, okay, great, we super support you in every way. Just make sure you can make a living, you figure out how to make a living, and that you're really good at it. And I was like, well, cool. Those are 2 things that I wanted to do anyway. Yeah. And to me, success didn't look like, oh, you're only a successful actor. In fact, I got so mad about this when the aunties and uncles would say this kind of shit. Success didn't look like, oh, you're famous and making $1 gazillion. Success meant I'm making a living doing the thing I love, whatever that looks like. And so I remember very specifically one like, because I mean, there's all these, the joke is that one uncle would be like, you know what you should do? You should do a movie with Tom Cruise. And I was like, oh my God, thank God you said that. I never would have thought of it. Let me call him up. But one of them, because artists are so often taught that we are going to struggle and have it so hard and it's not a real job, which makes me want to punch people in the teeth. I don't know why I said the teeth, because that would really hurt. Most like the neck. I want to go for the neck.
Oh, wow.
But that's much better.
Specific.
It's specific,
but
because it would really
work.
Work.
Height thing.
That's you.
That's kind of where
that's probably
too.
But when aunties or uncles will be like, well, it's going to be really hard for you and you're going to have to work very hard to be rich and famous, and that's what you're going through. You have to, as an actor, you don't do well unless you're famous. And I was like, oh, really? You're a doctor. Are you famous? But you're successful? Funny how that works. Yeah. Okay. Are you making a living? Great. So will I. So that indignance definitely lived in me, but it was never because my parents put it there. My parents were just like, cool, do whatever you want to do. Be good at it and find a way to make a living, whatever that is. So I did that.
Never, when you were growing up, you were never embarrassed that your parents had accents,
No.
or it was never, you never, so like, in a way, you didn't really care about fitting in then.
But I already did fit in. That was what was weird, is that people, like, I didn't fit in the terms of, like, you know, I was like the nerdy kid and whatever. But I look back on anything that I was made fun of for, or anything that made me feel like an outsider, was not because I was Indian. It was just that same feeling that some teenagers have when you feel like, I'm not one of the cool kids, or this. You know, I was so busy. Funny that. It's kind of like now. I was so busy through school doing 900 different activities and whatever. There was almost no time to feel crappy about not going to parties, because I was like, yeah, I got shit to do. That's fine. For senior year for prom, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do a show instead. Because I don't know if it's 50-50 chance, really more like a 10 to 90 chance that anyone asks me. So I'm just going to do a show. I'm going to make sure. So I did a show. I did Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. I did a production of that at Huntington Beach, whatever, Playhouse. And so I never felt like, I felt other, but not because I was Indian. And that was, and I really, really, really do think that was because of my parents more than anything. Because, again, they were doing the same thing in their lives. They were both, especially my mom, who, you know, an obstetrician coming from India in the 60s, and a female. I mean, she had to fight her way into acceptance by her peers. And the two of them had two social groups. They had the Indian, the family, the aunties and uncles, the extended family, the friends. And then there was the social group that they were, you know, from the hospital. And so they were already fitting in two places as well. So I was like, this is just how it works. And it wasn't that one was better. It was just that they were different. So yeah, I it's funny because I've never thought about it this much as in this conversation, but I have had a very unique experience of being the child of immigrants.
Well, it's unique. At the same time, what I think is really interesting about it is that I guess, there is a universality about the feeling, as you say, a feeling other and like an outsider. And it in a way, it doesn't really matter why, right? Yes. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
For one kid, it might be because their parents are immigrants or because of their skin color, but the feeling is the same.
It is.
Right?
And I feel like that time of life,
so it's universal.
Yeah, especially preteen to teens. Like that time of life is sort of built on, please, for the love of God, let me fit in, but also let me be considered special enough to be popular, or for boys to like me, or whatever. It's that weird duality that we have. And then to choose to go into acting, where like your job is to prove that you are the product they want to buy. It's just a continuation of that. That's when I started to feel... Honestly, that is when I started to feel my immigrant experience, was when I was
going to ask you how that, unfolded later with casting and, before the time that we're in now, where people are,
freaking awesome,
aware and paying attention and, doing what should have been happening all along. But it definitely was a thing. It wasn't a thing at all in college. That was awesome. First time I actually ever experienced it was, the last show we did in high school, because my teacher was like, we're doing a show about Amazon warriors. You're short and you're dark. You can't play this role. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I'm the leading lady in the drama class. Like, I am playing, what? So that was my first, so it didn't happen in college. I was very, very cool about that at Northwestern. And then mostly with agents, it was an issue. I remember one particular agent, who shall go unnamed, when I went to meet her for the first time, she was like, oh my God, I saw you in that Northwestern showcase and it was just so amazing. You were just up there like singing like an American and singing an American song. And I was like, funny that. I mean, I was born in Cleveland, so I'm pretty American. It's a thing. And then, she was going over my resume and she was like, so, Bhimani, I guess you're not wanting to change that, huh? And I was like, no. I don't really want to change it, but thanks. So needless to say, I did not sign with her. And there've just been various points through life where that's been a thing. And so because the
when I first started, it felt like there were like 5 of us auditioning for all the same things, and all the same things were you're a doctor or a nurse, and which is a fine. If you're going to have a stereotype, like I'm not mad at that stereotype because I grew up with it, and I'm really good at being a doctor. But I remember when I did that show on Broadway, the first Broadway show, there was a spread in India Abroad, which is like this newspaper. It was they had a spin-off, India in New York, and they had there were 3 Indians on Broadway at the time, which was like, what? Asif Mandvi, who a lot of people know from Evil and The Daily Show and all of that stuff. Super sweet guy. Another super sweet guy, Anil Kumar, was doing Tale of the Allergist's Wife, and I was doing Metamorphoses. So they did features on all 3 of us. And when they came out, the dudes, this is a very Indian experience. The dudes, the articles were all about, look at what they're doing. They're seizing that they're successful. This is amazing. They're creating their own destiny. And mine, the final sentence in mine, which was apparently a quote, that wasn't a quote because I never said this, was, I'm glad that I finally, I don't have any real accomplishments like being married or having children. She says, her eyes tearing up a bit. So this is something I can show to my parents and say, this is what I made.
Oh my God. And then she walked into the kitchen and prepared supper for the whole team.
And then her mom called her up when it came out and was like, what the hell did you say something so stupid for? I'm like, I didn't say it. I would never say, you know me. I would never say that. And what I probably said was like, I haven't lived the traditional life, like the traditional Indian life, like so many of my friends, which is awesome, like raising a family and whatever. But this is the path I chose, and I'm so glad that I get to share this with my parents. No, this is what I made. Mommy, Daddy, I'm so sorry. It's not a child. It's not a child, but it is a Broadway show. Please accept me. Like it was so comical, so comical. So yeah, in casting, it was a thing though, because other than working with my beloved Mary Zimmerman, who did Metamorphoses, and we did 18 shows together, and that woman will cast me like
18 separate shows,
18 productions, like
18 productions,
15 productions around the world. So, like some of them were the same show in different cities.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But still, like that's 18 shows is a lot of wonderful time, and she very much casts the essence of the person. And obviously your look is part of that. Your ethnicity is part of your essence, but it is only one small part. So, in Metamorphoses, I had 2 blonde dads. Like there's no sense of that.
Yeah.
And it's not color blind. It's just inclusive of the color you are and the size you are and the voice you are and the energy that you are. But when it came to other things, it definitely was a challenge. I will say, because there were not a lot of specifically Indian stories or Indian roles out there, it was either like the obviously Indian doctor on TV, or it was a show where it didn't matter. I played a Czech barmaid in the opera. I've played all different ethnicities that there are. A French woman during the Resistance, like all sorts of different stuff, because it's theater and you can do that.
Yeah.
Television has taken a lot longer to get there. And interestingly, now that there are so many stories, and finally we are seeing a lot of ethnic groups, not just ours, but so many ethnic groups or non-Caucasian ethnic groups, I should say, that are where the role doesn't depend on them being the ethnicity that they are. Mm-hmm. We're seeing complex stories. We're seeing things beyond the stereotypes. Now that that's happening, what I'm running into that's very interesting is that maybe it's a factor of like my age is finally out on the Google, so people know how old I am. But I seem to be now being pigeonholed into all Indian roles. Very, very Indian, all the time Indian, perhaps most of the time with an accent. And it's not pigeonholed, but kind of put in that seems to be more of the stuff that I'm booking. And I feel like it's partly because people want to be so accurate and cast an Indian person to play an Indian role. And I don't think this is what's going on with the younger generation. The young kids now, I don't think they are fighting this. But I feel like that is not necessarily happening with kids in their 20s and 30s. But I do feel like I own the auntie lane pretty hardcore.
Does
and I'm
it
not
bother
mad
you?
about it.
Okay.
It bothered me for a while because I was like, dude, put me in for like that's not like this is what I am.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like, why would that be a bad thing? Why on earth would that be? Like, my aunties are cool as fuck. So why would I not want to be the person and not want to be the person who can step into that role and make it not a stereotype?
Right.
Which I'm really thrilled about. In Ms. Marvel, they gave me the freedom to, and they wrote the role in such a way that I could play her as like a dope ass auntie, who's like, she's definitely got some of the things that Indian aunties, are known for, like a harsh sense of judgment and a no filters situation. But she's also the fun auntie who all the kids like hang with and come to talk to, and dances at the wedding and all that stuff. So those are the aunties I grew up with. My aunties are so cool. When my father was sick and we were dealing with all of that, they kept saying like, okay, call auntie.com if you need anything. With auntie.com is here, okay? And I thought, they were just like, they're just lovely human beings. And so that's been fun in recent years, especially, to be like, okay, don't be mad that a stereotype comes to you in a script, because you might be the only person that can play this in a way that it isn't stereotypical. Mm-hmm. So if you can figure that out, then you can do the audition and you can take the role. If you can't figure it out, if you can't find a way, because also in TV, so much gets changed when you start doing the job. There was one role in particular that when I read it and read the audition, I was like, this is the most stereotypical and offensive stuff that I have ever read for an audition. But I also know it's multicam, which means the writers are going to change it every day, and including on the day we shoot. So let's see what happens. And sure enough, it completely changed. No longer had an accent. She was completely different. She was just happened to be Indian, but we were sharing information about our culture. Just really, really, really cool stuff.
So, but you feel American. You would say you're American?
I feel Indian American, South Asian American, which I now have to say South Asian because this, Indian American.
Wait, why do you have to say
because
South Asian?
part of it is accuracy, but also because most people, when they say Asian, they mean East Asian, and they don't necessarily clarify that. Although I was on the set of a show once. I was on the. How do I? Oh, I don't know if I can say this without getting myself in trouble.
Great.
I made a particular joke. I made a particular joke that included me being Asian.
Yeah.
And then a fellow of East Asian descent came up to me. He's like, "Well, but you're not really Asian, are you?" And I was like, "India's in Asia, so I feel like I'm Asian. Like that's a thing." But that, like, sometimes people use that accuracy and get angry that you're not being specific. I'm like, so I just Indian American. I'm definitely Indian American. I feel American. Love America.
Really?
Like, it's my country. Wow. Even with all its fuck ups.
What do you love about it?
No, because even with all its fuck ups, and look, right now it's exceptionally fucked up, but it's also the people. This is the place where people can speak up and do something about it, or one of the places where people can actually speak up and do something about it, where no one's gonna, haul us off for speaking our mind. There's a lot of yet the night is young,
and full of terrors.
And full of terror. The night is dark and full of terrors. My skin is dark and I am terrified. But I historically, this has been the way. As long as democracy holds tight, which it is holding by a string right now.
Did your parents ever talk about going back to India?
Only when they were talking about retirement.
Right.
And my mom felt like, okay, well, our money will go a long way if we go there. But then I think what kept them from doing it was realizing partly that they would rarely see their kids or their grandkids. And I just don't know. I don't know that my dad would have loved it. I think my mom would have adapted, because she kind of adapts to everything.
So your dad loved it here?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they both love it here. I don't know that either of them could really have adapted, to be honest.
I guess also the thing with doctors is that that's such an obsession as well. Or that's like a job where you have to be so passionate in a way, because you sacrifice so much, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it was that, because my mom was, they were both retired. My mom was retired at the time. My dad was going to retire. And I honestly can't remember kind of the specific reason it kind of fell through.
But that was a plan that
that was an idea that they were pursuing pretty seriously for a while. And my mom like had looked at the apartment building that they were going to have, and how would we hire help because maybe Dad's health or her health would go downhill because that's what you're thinking about at the time. But yeah, didn't happen, and now Mom's still here. Just kicking it in Orange County, loving it. Bhimani, 4 seasons.
Do you have, people ask this all the time, and I always get annoyed kind of, but do you have like a dream role where you're like, I've never been offered this and I wish, why am I not offered this,
Action hero.
Right.
I have always, since I was a child, wanted to be an action hero. Now, the interesting thing about that
but now you're
is that I never, not exactly.
Okay.
Like, the interesting thing about that is that I wanted to be an action hero, but did I study martial arts or do anything like that? I just wanted to be it. Like, I wanted this to happen. This will happen, no problem. Like, in high school, I wanted to be one of the American Gladiators. That's how much I wanted to be. But I was so unathletic, like wildly unathletic human being. So, that was like, it was like me dreaming of being a pro basketball player. It's just like, at that time, I just wasn't doing the things that need to be happening. You say that I'm in now
growing.
Because you got the growing any taller. But Michelle Yeoh is what 5'3", 5'4", and she's freaking the most kick-ass person ever.
But she doesn't play basketball.
No, but she's no. She doesn't play basketball, but she's like super martial artist.
Right.
Like
that doesn't matter. It's better to be small for martial arts.
And it's great for rock climbing. Rock climbing was my sport.
It's great for pretty much everything.
It's great for
basketball.
a lot. It's great for a lot of things.
Basketball's the only thing.
Yeah,
and concerts.
I would agree with that. Yeah, that's true too. But that's why I just
that's why you married the.
No, that's why I married the rock star, so I can like push my way up front and be like, I'm good. But you can always also push your way up front. I'm very good at doing that.
But now you're in a show that is a superhero.
It is a superhero show, but I'm playing an auntie.
Yes.
So until they do Auntie Marvel, which I'm pitching. I really want to pitch this. We've got Ms. Marvel, we've got Captain Marvel. Why not Auntie Marvel?
I love it. Do it.
I mean, I'm ready. You're so ready, Kevin. Kevin, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Who's Kevin?
Kevin Feige from Marvel.
Okay.
The grand
Kevin?
The grand poobah of Marvel Studios. Yeah.
Who needs Kevin? Just make your own.
That could happen too. I am. This is one of the things that I do love about the way the arts has progressed in Hollywood in particular, and I could say Hollywood, but I really mean just like the acting world. Is that where before it used to be stay in your lane. And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't have the focus for that, and I'm not interested in that. Now, especially with the pandemic, I realized, this is not a bad thing. This is me diversifying my portfolio like they always tell you to do with your finances. And I think everybody is leaning into I need to write, produce, direct, create my own projects. I need to do all of this, whatever I want to do. Like I'm not dying to be a writer, so I will hang out with writers that I love and writers that I want to.
But
support.
You are a writer.
I mean, screenwriter.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a screenwriter. I love writing that. That was a different kind of writing. That was super fun. But so like I'm producing a pilot with this incredible writer named Sabrina Besla, and it's called The B Word, and it is about 5 South Asian American women living their lives in Los Angeles.
What's the B word?
It's all sorts of things.
Okay.
It's not what you think it is, though, with South Asian Americans. It's not brown. I mean, it could be brown. It could be brown, but it could be beautiful. It could be anything in every episode.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
bitch. Could be bitch. Could be bitch. You never know. It could be that. It could be any of those things.
Could be basil.
It could
That's
be
a B word.
It could be, and then that episode is about cancer. I don't know. Like it's
cancer?
basal cell carcinoma. Doctor. See?
My God.
First thing I think of when you say basil.
I have a basil on my balcony that I named Jeff Bezos.
Oh my God! Like basil the see, I didn't
and
think
it gives
about
me
that.
great pleasure to eat it. Right.
Yeah.
The B word.
The B word. So I'm excited about that. Producing that. Have some other projects in mind. Obviously, all of our video game stuff has kind of blown open the world of representation and inclusivity, which is fantastic.
Which I think, a lot of people always ask us when we do panels together for Overwatch, why was the game so successful? And I think unanimously, we always, all of us always say, well, it's the diversity of the characters and the depth of the characters. And, your character, Symmetra, is Indian, but she is also autistic or she's on the spectrum. And there's so much more to her
Exactly.
than, just, we have an Indian character in here.
Exactly. And that
check.
the way it's just like what I was saying about growing up. Like it's a part of who all of these characters are. But they are made, their unique sauce comes from all of the different things that make them them, and their stories and their lore and their, Symmetra was plucked from the slums of India and sent off to this, company that may or may not be so good for her to work for. And that is a huge part of her upbringing. And the complexity of those characters means that there's someone for everyone to identify with one way or the other. And you've heard me say this before. I think when you see a hero that you can identify with, you can identify the hero in yourself. And so people can take that empowerment and take it out into the world. And that's why it's not even representation I care about so much. It's a step more than that, because I think of representation and I'm like, it's not Noah's Ark. We don't need two of everything. But we want everyone to feel included in the story. We want a story to draw people in, not push them out. And when you feel seen as a viewer or as a player, then you want to be part of the story. And that's a really powerful and empowering place to come from.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully said. Anjali Bhimani is available for public speaking anytime.
I'm available for your keynote speeches too. But I really am. I love talking about. I love.
Well, you're really good at it, and that's why you you wrote this book. Yeah. We already said it's called I'm Fun Size, and so are you. Thoughts from a Tiny Human on Living a Giant Life. It's all your thoughts and sort of experiences around struggling and
everything,
picking yourself up and life.
I like to call it your buddy in a book. It's like you're sitting down and talking with it, because it's very conversational. Yeah. And so it's like throw your buddy in your backpack, and when you're feeling lonely or confused, or maybe you just need a pick me up, maybe you're really feeling great about life and you just want to hang out, there's something in there for you.
And there's illustrations.
There's illustrations of my adorable dog doing very cute things. I mean, who doesn't want to see a dog dressed up as a bard playing a lute? I do. Who doesn't want to see a dog at high tea? I do. And he's a really cute dog.
Yeah, very cute dog.
Very cute dog.
Anjali, did you? I ask every guest for sayings or expressions that they grew up with, because I always think that expressions and sayings say a lot about the culture or mentality of the culture, the way things are phrased, or what kind of analogies they use for life. Did you grow up with anything? Can you think of anything? I looked some up.
I didn't grow up with a saying, but what I did grow up, and there's a saying that I got from a friend later in life, which I think is hilarious. But we did grow up, and it's permanently etched in my mind. I will never, ever forget it. We grew up with a Sanskrit prayer. And we said it every night at dinner. And what's interesting is that when I finally learned, much later than I learned what the prayer was in Sanskrit, what I learned later was what it was about. And it's student-teacher. It's a student-teacher. It's a prayer about that relationship more than the family. And so the fact that was so treasured in our family, it's like, let us be on this journey together. Let us learn together. Let the knowledge that we find not create hostility between us or with others. It's this really beautiful.
Prayer?
That was part of it. That was part of it. It's so beautiful. And again, to think of your parents as they're not just your parents; they're your teachers, and you're on the journey together. And then at the end of the Sanskrit part, we would say, God is great, God is good, thank you, God, for our food, which is not part of it. Obviously.
And you would say it in English?
That part we would say.
But the rest of it?
The rest of it was in Sanskrit.
Right.
So there was that. Later in life, my friend Farhan Tahir, who's a Pakistani actor that I love so much, we've known each other for like 25 years. We did a show together. We did my first Mary Zimmerman show together. And he would always joke about how funny it was that Indians would be like, oh, I may die. I may die. Oh, I may die. And I'm like, that was their version of, oh my God, it's slaying me. Oh my God, I'm dead. But I was like, I may die.
Oh, really?
If I weren't your friend, I may die. Like, I loved that. I loved that he kept joking about that.
Anjali Bhimani, if you were casting a movie about the Statue of Liberty, who would you cast as the Statue of Liberty?
Glenn Close.
Nice. Yeah. I would have said you, but...
Oh, wow.
Hi.
I don't know. I feel like Glenn Close kind of looks like the Statue of Liberty. Like, she's got that beautiful, strong jaw. This is the first thought I immediately go to, like, who looks like the Statue of Liberty? And she's obvious. I mean, she's Glenn Close. She can kind of do anything.
Yeah.
But I suppose it doesn't necessarily speak to the immigrant
No.
experience.
It doesn't have to.
No.
If you had to eat one American person, who would you eat?
I was going to say Donald Trump because I would love for him to go away, but I feel like I would get indigestion for the rest of my life. That's the only political thing that I have ever said in public ever. Strong work. Tipping my toe in. Who would I eat? God, because it's such a hard question because there would no longer be that person, and
Or
I don't
they
want it
would
to be some
part of you.
or they would be part of
be
me.
inside you, or you could someone you hate, so you could poop them out, or
God.
someone who looks delicious.
This is so difficult. These questions are always hard for me. You've seen me on panels like struggle with creative questions.
Who do you think is particularly delicious these days?
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig?
Daniel Craig is delicious, but I wouldn't want to eat him because I want Rachel Weisz to be able to enjoy her life. If I could eat and absorb someone's qualities, Daniel Craig I would take. I would eat Justin Timberlake because I think it would be so much fun to be Justin Timberlake.
Really?
Oh my God, he can kind of do anything, so I think it would be so much fun. I would love that. J-Lo, I want to be J-Lo.
Yeah.
She is like. She's incredible to me as a human being, as a workaholic, as all of the things that she is. I want to be J-Lo.
Okay,
So if I could,
final answer, J-Lo?
I think we'll go with J-Lo because
Okay.
I just want to be her.
Yeah, because
If
I think Daniel Craig would taste like beef jerky.
Well, he would be very like low fat.
Yeah.
It would be a low fat meal.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
am
yeah.
trying to cut down on my carbs, so maybe that would be a good move. I feel like that.
Okay, if you had to come up with a catchphrase for America, what would it be?
Bzzz. That'd be the catchphrase. Right there.
great. I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Like just like
It's flatlining.
static. It's flat. I'm flatlining.
Okay,
I'm
two more
flatlining.
questions,
Okay,
then we're
thank you.
done. If you were president of the United States of America, what American food would you ban?
Deep fried butter. It's a thing.
What?
Deep fried butter is a thing at like the Iowa State Fair and like state fairs in the Midwest. I would ban like I would put a ban on a certain amount of fat being allowed in a particular food. Like you can't fry a fat and then cover it with fat. Like speaking of inclusivity, like let's include some differences in the foods. Like they got deep fried Oreos, deep fried, and I'm sure they're delicious, but I've
had a deep fried Mars bar in Scotland.
Yeah, like
all that stuff comes from Scotland. I
Is
think.
that the Scottish
I think so.
descending on Iowa? I feel like that's a
Deep fried butter?
Deep
I had
fried
no idea
butter.
that was a thing. What?
Yeah.
Okay, last most important question I've ever asked anyone in my life. And listeners, if you've listened to one or more episodes, you know what's coming. Anjali, Bhimani, do you know how I can meet David Hasselhoff?
You know, I mean, my husband's in the music industry. We got to be able to figure this out, right? And he knows he's really good friends with a promoter out there for his band. So maybe we
For
should.
David Hasselhoff's
No,
band?
no, no, no. For Rick's band.
Oh, David Hasselhoff is?
No. Rick knows a really awesome German promoter who might have access to the Hoff.
A German
This is how
promoter.
we're going to do it. I'm going to talk with Rick, see if they can pitch their manager that they do a show with the Hoff.
It might
somehow
mean that you will never have money again.
No, I
Might
think
mean
it's
the
going to
end
mean
of the career.
No, I think what it's going to be. I think what it's going to be is they're going to blow the fuck up in Germany. Is what I think. They're already doing really well in Germany. Why not?
Great.
Why not? I love this pair. I'm going to ask Rick what he thinks about this because he's spent a lot of time in Germany and be like, I mean, is this a thing? Could we do that? Either that or I hit up the Hoff to do a song for the pilot. And it would obviously
I don't think
be
you want to do that.
No, but it would obviously be
As a friend?
No, it would obviously be like tongue in cheek. It would obviously be something that like somehow goes in, and I feel like he's a guy who knows how to also poke fun at himself.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's his whole career
that's,
now.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I like Justin Timberlake, because he doesn't mind taking the piss out of himself. So I feel like that's another option. I feel like the way to meet him is that we go the career path.
Okay.
Because you too are an international star. So I feel like no, but you are known internationally, right?
For
It's not like people don't go online and they're like, who the fuck is that? Like, oh shit, people know who she is. So I feel like this is the way we meet him. And also then you meet him as a peer, not as a fan or a potential lover.
This is the best answer I've ever gotten.
So I think this is, well, I'm a practical person. I got you.
Yes.
I'm working on
I'm
this.
Excited.
I'm excited too.
I think, okay, let's do it.
That was the exciting, that was the celebration.
Maybe I can be in this song too.
Oh, we're going to have to call it Lucie the Cutesy. That's what we're going to call it, Lucie. Lucie, my cutesy. Oh, Lucie, my cutesy. Your bootsy so pretty.
Oh, yeah.
See, I don't know why it was country, but it was country.
It was country.
It was country.
But it also sounded Italian. You're like,
Your
your bootsy so pretty. Down low in the country. Okay, well, this is exciting. I'm so excited. I can't believe that we're going to make this happen. There's going to be a follow-up episode and a reality TV show to go along with it. Anjali Bhimani, for those 4 people left that don't follow you on Instagram, where can they follow you on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube?
Find me at Sweet Anj, but with 3 E's because I'm such a spelling rebel. It's SWEETANJ. That's Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, where the series I Am Fun Size is on YouTube. You can also find me at Anjali Bhimani on Facebook. And you can email me at anjali@iamfunsize.com. I have a public-facing email address. It's where I get questions for the I Am Fun Size series. That is a private email, and then you can email my team at info@anjalibhimani.com to find out anything about me that is public knowledge that you may not know.
Amazing. You have a book. You are on Miss Marvel. You are on Critical Role. You are the voice of Symmetra and Overwatch.
And
you
Rampart and Apex Legends.
Rampart and Apex Legends.
Don't forget Rampart.
So much more stuff coming out. You're constantly shooting new movies and TV shows. And this is so exciting. And everybody's so excited. And everybody check out Anjali Bhimani. If you haven't already, what are you doing with your life? You idiot.
Come. Auntie welcomes you with open arms.
Exactly. I'm not going to repeat that because I'll be canceled. But this has been amazing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Please give a little 5-star rating on the old iTunes.
Do it.
Leave a review. It helps a lot. Check out the Patreon. Go on YouTube. Email someone about this podcast. Email one person a day for the next 4 years.
Yeah, that'll work. I think that's an excellent plan. I mean, what does it take? Like 30 seconds of your time?
Plan. Thank you so much. I'm Lucie Pohl. And give it up for Mike Albanese. Woo! Oh my God, has there ever been a better producer in the history of all time? In all the lands? No. The answer is no. Thank you. We love you. Peace. Oh my God, Douchebag Steve. You have to also shout out Douchebag Steve.
Douchebag Steve. What's up, Douchebag Steve? I saw you. Douchebag Steve commented on something on Instagram the other day, and I was like, that's Lucie's Dootsy.
Yeah. Douchebag Steve, we love you. We couldn't do this without you. You're the best. Okay, peace, love, and hair grease. Bye, Anjali's book.
Peace out, peoples.
If you liked what you just heard, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, recommend to all your friends. And if you hated it, recommend it to your enemies. Thank you for listening to Immigrant Jam, the podcast with me, Lucie Pohl. Have a delicious and nutritious day.